So the leaks for chapter 10 are out, and they are wild, as firstly, there's some talk about Yuji, but the aliens also decide whether they want to start a war or coexist with the humans. So we start off with the first panel, where we see some people who look to be in some sort of headquarters, and they are watching footage of Maru fighting an old curse practitioner. Someone at the table speaks up and asks if they can really just let this slide. Usami then speaks up and asks him what he means by that. The man asks if they aren't giving those aliens too much freedom, explaining that, from what he has heard, even the one who refused to let them accompany them was a Cimmerian. Usami fights back and says that in that case, 2 sorcerers were rendered unable to fight, and Envoy Maru simply stepped in to bring the situation under control. But the man continues and says that Envoy Maru attempted to harm second-year student Tsurugi, who tried to intervene. This catches Mino's attention, and he pulls a super funny face. After that, he thinks back to when Usami told him to erase all footage of Maru and Tsurugi, and Mino looks towards Usami and thinks that he really did delete everything. After that, the man says that it makes the Cimmerians fall under Article 7 of the Jujutsu regulations and be classified as a threat. Usami, however, says that there's no violation under the Hikari provision. Everyone looks surprised as they hear that. After that, a woman speaks up and says that there used to be talk of turning battles between jujutsu sorcerers into a public spectacle, an officially sanctioned form of gambling, saying that back then, during the culling games, the government had already acknowledged the existence of cursed spirits, which effectively blurred Article 8, also called the secrecy. The woman continues and says that in the end, the whole gambling plan got scrapped. However, during the prior review of the Jujutsu regulations, the Hikari provision was established. Naturally, it includes a clause that permits commercial duels between sorcerers. Someone then says that they had no idea about it, and the woman says that it's not surprising, as nowadays it only matters if you're hired for private protection. We then get into a flashback where Usami asked Maru to sign something, and Tsurugi told him to read the contents first, which is kind of funny. After that, we get back to the arguing man who says that it's absurd, explaining that only sorcerers recognized by the headquarters can enter commercial duel contracts. Usami then counters and says that Maru was hired as a civilian guard. The woman then starts to laugh and says that they are claiming that this incident was caused by a latent sorcerer. After that, Mino explains that a latent sorcerer refers to someone who unconsciously uses jujutsu. Crimes committed by latent sorcerers are generally treated as acts with extenuating circumstances, and in most cases, they are not held criminally liable. The man then once again jumps in and says that it's nonsense, saying that it's a well-known fact that Cimmerians can manipulate cursed energy. Usami says that it doesn't mean that every Cimmerian can. The man then asks him why he is so hard on defending them. Usami then hits back and says that he should be the one asking him that, and why he is so desperate to oppose them, explaining that diplomacy ends the moment you're looked down on, and we've already been warned once. They need to demonstrate their own deterrence as well. After that, he says that they need to get serious about locating Yuji, which is so cool. Usami then, in quotations, says that being looked down on means the end. That might apply between individuals or companies, but it's not a value that fits the scale of nations. Usami continues, saying that he doesn't care if they stir things up and feel like they are doing their job, but to leave the rest of them and the country out of it, telling him to make sure to apologize to everyone later. He then says that putting effort into finding Yuji isn't a bad move anyway, as there's never anything good that comes from making enemies among their own, and then he leaves. After that, we get to the ship, where we see a Rumelian man asking why an outsider like Dabura gets to make the final decision, asking what's the point of them having voting rights then. An elder man says that it's how the unified council system works. The man asks how it's any different from a dictatorship. The elder man says that it was decided by Maru and Cross, saying that with Dula gone, Dabura is the one most fit to serve as chieftain, explaining that it's precisely because he was once an outsider that he can judge things from a detached and objective standpoint. The man then calls Maru and Cross arrogant brats, but he goes harder at Cross and says that he looks down on him, saying that they were practically exiled from the planet because of Dabura. The elder then calls him Oski and asks if he can actually win against Dabura or even those twins, which he obviously can't. So the elder tells him to control himself, telling him that a decision maker can only reject a council's consensus formed by deliberation and majority vote twice, saying that Maru's injury is already known through the assembly and that this meeting will likely reach the same majority opinion as before. They then go and sit down, and Oski says that they should just crush this island nation already, explaining that a chance to deal with a country that has no army and that opportunities like that don't come around often. The elder agrees and says that Earth's military hardware is rather primitive to them, and that it's fortunate that the negotiating party happens to be a nation of sorcerers. Osaki then tells him that if they posture for coexistence and act submissively, they will then be looked down on and lose more. They should take a hard line even if it means confrontation. First, they will take autonomous zones in the capsule region, as that's a non-negotiable. He continues and says that next they will rumel and become deskunte, and that they will never again accept being the ones getting taken from. We then see Cross, who asks Jabaloma why he's still withholding his answer, saying that whether or not he supports coexistence with Earthlings, Jabaloma says that it's because he is also withholding his. We then see a flashback to Yuka, asking if Cross isn't also torn about it, saying that it's why he disguised himself as Maru to understand them better, and asking if she is wrong. After that, we get back to real time, where Jabaloma says that Cross and he hold 10 voting rights, saying that if they both choose coexistence, the balance of all previous agreements will surely be overturned, though Dabura might veto it again. Jabaloma then looks at Cross and tells him to make the decision, as he will follow his lead. Cross asks him if he doesn't have a will of his own, but Jabaloma tells him that entrusting someone is also an act of will. We then see a flashback to Tsurugi and Yuka, saying that they will bring an end to this, just the two of them. But we then get back to Cross, who looks mad and says that by majority approval. However, he doesn't say much more, as Jabaloma then speaks up and says that they shall aim for coexistence with the people of Earth, saying that first they should establish opportunities for dialogue and cultural exchange with Japan, the representative nation of Earth, to foster mutual understanding. Oski then speaks up and is caught off guard as he speaks out to Cross and Jabaloma and says that they weren't on the coexistence side before. Cross says that they had merely withheld their answer. Oski then says that Maru isn't even here and that this outcome shouldn't count. Cross then says that he's been on the coexistence side from the start and that his stance was confirmed before the meeting. Oski then calls out for Dabura and asks him what he's going to do. Dabura says that he doesn't see a problem with it. Oski then gets mad like the man-child he seems to be, and Dabura then says that conflict, or to put it bluntly, invasion, can be started any time. But once that begins, neither side will ever truly understand the other again. He says that they should start by getting to know each other, as after all, they left Simuria to search for their neighbors. We then see Jabaloma and Cross, and Jabaloma tells Cross that he respects him. Cross tells him not to do it, and says that he's just tired, that's all. After that, we get into Usami's head, who thinks that when he heard that he was defeated in a duel and exiled from the planet, it didn't sit right with him, saying that it wasn't that he lost, but that they were the ones defeated by him. After that, we see a meeting room with pretty much everyone, and Yuka asks if Kalyan also has a lifespan, right? But Jabaloma says that Kalyan is immortal and that he cannot die unless he's killed. Yuka is amazed by that, and Tsurugi says that he can see why they treat him as something sacred. Usami then speaks up and says that, regarding the cultural exchange, he believes a dinner gathering would be the most suitable and asks them what they think. Jabaloma says that it sounds good and that they will send Maru and Cross to assist with the preparation. Because of that, Usami sends Tsurugi and Yuka. Tsurugi, however, says that they can't really cook anything decent. Usami, however, says that naturally he will be giving them plenty of guidance, and after that, we see Maru and Yuka being super close as they have opened their own delivery kitchen. Tsurugi then asks what it's supposed to be, and Yuka asks if he really doesn't know and says that it's a revival of an old cooking show that's trending again. Maru just says that he just did what he was told to, and Yuka says that he sounds like some low-level delinquent in a juvenile crime ring. After that, they talk about food a lot, which I don't want to bore you guys with, but yeah, that's pretty much the whole of chapter 10. I skipped over some of the food things, which were funny. However, it will be much funnier reading that when it comes out. Anyway, this was my first try at making a leak video on Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, and it's insane how much text there was. Blue Lock gets nowhere near this much text, which is to be expected, but still, it was a shock. Anyway, I hope that you have gotten a pretty decent understanding of the leaks from this video, and if there's something I can do better, then please let me know. Anyway, if you like Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video, which will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.